What is happening, y'all? Cowboy here, and I'm so excited to finally bring y'all a look at Armored Core 6. So the week of the Summer Games Fest, Bandai had a little closed door event where there was the producer. They went through, talked about the game, gave folks a chance to watch some footage. No one got to go hands-on with it, but we got a chance to see it, and that's more than enough for me. And then they gave me some footage to bring to y'all. So I only have about 4 minutes of footage. I'm going to be looping that in the background as I talk about it. The second half of the video, I'm going to talk more about what's going on. But for now, at least, let's talk about that presentation, what we have learned about the game, and just kind of the state it's in. Because, oh my god, it looks so freaking good. And one of the first things I want to talk about is the elephant in the room. I don't know who the dude was that first saw this and said it was going to be Souls-like. But you gotta stop doing drugs, man. They're not good. Because this is 100% Armored Core. This oozes Armored Core. Just everything about this just screams, I am the pinnacle of Armored Core. Boosting up, we are dashing around, we are hitting with the laser blade and the Gatling gun and boosting in and getting the kicks. This is literally everything that you've come to love about this franchise over the years, just turned up to 11. It is the cleanest and coolest looking Armored Core that there has ever been. And I am so freaking excited to play it. Some big changes, obviously. They have a very nice blend of both mobility as well as heaviness with the mech now. Personally, I see a lot of inspiration coming from 5 and Verdict Day. Movement's definitely been turned up, but the heaviness is definitely visible, especially when you see the mech walking and not boosting around. But from what I'm seeing, I'm a really big fan here. The movement in this looks crisp, it looks heavy, it looks deliberate. We're seeing stuff like this where you dash around and get the quick turn and go on in to get some damage. Everything that they showed us, which they basically just showed us the extended sequence of this. What you're seeing right now is a mere, basically 4 minutes of curated footage. We got to see it over the course of 20 minutes with them talking about what they were doing, almost like a gameplay walkthrough, just, real time, their thoughts, what they're doing, why they're doing it. Got to see the UI, obviously, which we're going to be talking about that more in depth a little bit later. But, I mean, everything that we saw is just, it screamed just polishing quality. What they showed us looks so freaking good. My main question was why can't we have this now? So obviously a lot has changed with it, in terms of bringing it up to date, bringing it more modern, especially with the assembly, which we're going to talk about that more in depth later. But one of the biggest things is with the death system. Now, I don't know if there's going to be any punishment at all in this game, to be completely honest with y'all, but one of the big things is against the fight you're seeing right now. When they were doing the walkthrough, he died against it, and then we got the screen, and you could restart mission, restart from the checkpoint. But we're now able to access assembly as well as AC data at a checkpoint screen. So the guy playing died to this thing, went into assembly, completely changed his loadout, dropped his missiles and pulled on a pulse blade as well as a shield, and then jumped back in to refight the enemy with new gear. And that's not even the craziest thing. The more wild thing to me is the fact that AC data is a selection there. Because in theory, that means you could go in, fight something, decide you're outclassed, and pull out an entirely different Armored Core to fight it with. Could you imagine? You have a level that's a ton of people, and you basically just go through the level with your tank with double autocannons, shred everything, die to the boss once, and then you're like, time to pull out the ultimate weapon Armored Core. So definitely some changes that I think are going to make the game more approachable to newcomers, 100%, especially with the building of ACs, which we'll get to in the second half of this video. But it doesn't look like it's going to be as punishing. The combat, obviously, looks to be very punishing, very deliberate now, very exact in movements, but it doesn't seem like they're going to be leaning heavily into the systems of, you've gone bankrupt and lost all your money, tough shit. Stuff like that seems like it's largely gone. So to talk a little bit about what we're actually seeing here, so the first part of the presentation was really focused on this open area and kind of talking about the freedom of approach, whether you wanted to try and take the bridge across and fight enemies, whether you wanted to boost across and just kind of make your way over and hit them from above or ambush them, whatever the case would be. They really wanted us to know just how free you are in the exploration of this game. And obviously it's not open world like Elden Ring, everything is very mission based, but once you're in the mission, it's pretty much just up to you how you want to go through it. Talking a little bit about the movement. So obviously when you're on the ground and kind of dashing around, your energy is not going to really move all that much. If you are going vertically or you're boosting to the side, like you can see as the thrusters are firing up, that is going to drain energy. When you do that fast dash, that's known as assault boost. Surprisingly, it doesn't drain energy all that much faster. It was draining it at roughly the same rate as a normal boost, but the energy usage does seem to be normalized, at least compared to 5. So one of the big things is anytime you're not actively boosting in a direction, if you're just kind of hovering, your energy just kind of goes more into a standstill. I noticed that it regenerated very fast if you were on the ground and your boosters had been basically killed. So I think energy management is going to be a lot cleaner this time around, not nearly as stressful as it used to be. Talking a little bit about weapons, and right now we're going through the internal part of the level, but one of the big things I noticed is we're not worried about swapping arms anymore. There's a big emphasis on all 4 of your weapons now being used. So in this case, he had like the battle rifle, he had the rockets on the shoulder, I believe he had the pulse blade and the shield. But like even right there, you notice that he ended up using the rockets and then immediately fired. There wasn't any arm swap or switching between weapons. Right here, you notice the fast turn and then he dashes in and pulls out the pulse blade for a kill. So there's a much bigger emphasis on having the player utilize all 4 of their weapons. All 4 of your weapons are tools that are meant to be used at any given time, as opposed to the older titles where, you know, you may have a weapon that's more like, oh, we're going to use this, and then once this is thrown away, we'll go to our backup. You're very much intended to use all 4 weapons now, it seems like, or at least it certainly did with this build, given he was playing with a bipedal and that's kind of a play style. Maybe with fixed weapons like you would have on a quadruped or a tank, it's still how it used to be. Moving on though, let's talk about assembly, which has been simplified in terms of damage. So most weapons now, we have attack power and impact. That's all we got to worry about. You don't got to worry about, you know, chemical, kinetic, thermal. That seems to be completely gone. Even in terms of defense, it's just AP and defensive performance. Now, certain pieces obviously have more specific limits. Stuff like, as you can see here, capacity and cooling speed are part of generators like they used to be. But for the most part, it does seem like the amount of stats you're worrying about has been greatly simplified. In terms of parts, we still have all the standards: head, chest, legs, arms, 2 weapons, 2 back slots, and then of course generator, FCS, as well as booster. So we have the expansion slot, but they didn't really tell us anything about that. Now to talk a little bit about the combat, this is, I think, where we're seeing the discussion of deliberate. We're seeing the mini boss here is doing swings in very specific directions, and the Armored Core is dodging in a very specific direction to avoid those. And I think that's what they were talking about when they said these fights. They wanted them to be more deliberate. They wanted the player to think about their dodging. Whereas I think in a lot of the older Armored Core games, there were times where, I don't want to say you were panic dodging, but man, you were just hitting that button and going in any direction you could to get away. Now the dodging is definitely a lot more deliberate. It's a lot more, you know, action, reaction, which obviously that's more in tune with kind of the Souls design philosophy. Whereas I think in the older Armored Core games, yeah, it was action, reaction, but you were like, boom, 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 boom. You were just going all over. Whereas here, the movement does seem slowed down enough to be deliberate in your direction. I also noticed like specific part targeting and whatnot, so it's good to see stuff like that returning. But everything that we got a chance to see, they didn't even show us the end of the boss fight. They were like, well, you'll find out on your own later. I was like, how are you going to leave us like that? But I mean, regardless, everything that I have seen here has just reaffirmed my faith in From Software that this is going to be absolutely phenomenal. This is looking to be an amazing Armored Core experience. So while the B-roll provided to us didn't actually have the UI of the game, and I'm not able to share any screenshots of it, as far as I know, there's no rule against me redrawing it from memory to give y'all an idea of what it looked like. Because I know a lot of folks have been curious, what is this going to look like outside of cutscenes? And the truth is, it is very, very clean. So we're going to just be using a screenshot of the game here, messing around in Photoshop, and I'm going to kind of mock up what it looked like. So to start, we have that target reticle right here in the middle of the screen. And this wasn't static. This would like move. So wherever our target was, this kind of went with them. And it served also as like a heads up display. So there were a couple different pieces of information that were on this. One of the first was health. So once you locked onto the target, kind of right up here in the top part of the bar, this part became basically a health bar. That is where you saw the enemy's health, just right there on your bar. Very small section, But I think the biggest thing is they want you to pay more attention to the stagger. Now, the stagger was going to be above that, and there were like 3 different sections to it. So those were filling up as you damage the enemy. So as you can imagine, this whole thing is kind of shifting around as you're in combat. You're seeing this slowly drain out, and then as these build up, you know you're going to have an opportunity for some big damage coming in. Now there was also some stuff along the bottom of the bar. I'm not 100% exactly what it all pertained to, but we did have stuff pertaining to our ammo. So right here we had a bar, and right here we had a bar, and it looked like those represented our left and our right ammo sources. So like as you were shooting with something, let me just pull up like the eraser. Actually, I'll erase the image, but as you were shooting with something, you know, this bar would slowly be draining down, and then when you went to reload, the whole thing for just a moment would like turn red, and it would be like do 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 do, and it would fill up, and then it would turn blue again, and that would indicate like your ammo was full. So very simple in terms of the on-screen heads-up display. Kind of similar to what we had in Verdict Day, but much cleaner. It didn't have numbers all over it. It had like a little thing in the middle of the screen kind of telling you your distance. So, you know, right here, you just had a little, just make a little squiggle, you know, 128 or whatever. So you just knew how far the target was. But that was it in terms of the center of your screen. Very clean, very simple. Was a really big fan of that. Now, besides that, some other big elements, we had health over here. We had like our actual AP bar, and then we had like, you know, number 0, 7, blah, blah, blah. We'll just pretend those are numbers. So those were over there. We had a meter for scan. We had a meter for repair, and the repair meter also had the number of repairs remaining. And then we had a little box showing your expansion slot. So right in this little cluster down here, that was going to be health, repair, scan. Over here, down at the bottom of the screen, we had our boost bar, big boost bar. We had a stagger bar, showed our stagger bar. Similar to the enemies, it was also in 3 segments. And as you would take, what was interesting as well, this one I remember it like filling up right to left. This one I remember it went center to left and right. So it expanded outward, but still it caught your eye. And then the last thing I remember is we had our ammo and stuff over here. We had like 4 little lines. And each of those had like blah blah, like this, you know, your 20 shots and 25 and 4 and 6 or whatever. And so that was basically the UI. Our targeting reticle, we had, like I said, boost, we had stagger, we had our basic stuff over here, and we had our ammo over here. And as you can see, it's actually really clean. There's a ton of open space. Over here, like really small, we had like mission info just kind of up in the corner, like, you know, go do this, like reach blah 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 blah, like a little line over there. And I don't remember seeing that all the time, so I think that was actually a dynamic element. Knowing FromSoft, I would bet you could probably turn a lot of this stuff off or on. But honestly, compared to the, like, I think a big thing with Armored Core is a lot of people play and they're like, I can't tell what the hell is going on your screen. There's too much shit. This is a very nice simplification. It's very, very straightforward. The one thing I couldn't tell, but I really wish that we had like our health here as well, because our health only being down in the bottom left, like I'm going to see my stagger bar and my boost bar and my ammo bar and the enemies bar, but I'm rarely going to look down at the bottom left-hand corner at that stuff. So we'll see. It might be, they might have full UI customization. But, you know, bar any official leaks, here it is, man. This is the official right here, baby. Armored Core 6 UI, courtesy of your boy Cowboy. Enjoy that. But all jokes aside, the game is looking to be absolutely phenomenal. Everything that I got a chance to see obviously just exuded polish. It looked so freaking crisp and good. And I mean, honestly, as much of it as we saw, even though it was just a very short snippet, I can't help but feel that, like, at this point, the only thing they're doing is just polishing and bug fixing, because it looked so good. It did not look like, you know, oh man, we just learned about this. This is going to be kind of alpha-y or beta-y. Like, nah, this looked good. And I think even though it's B-roll, I think the footage also shows that. It looks very crisp. The animations look good. The particle effects on the energy swords and the jets, all of it looks phenomenal. Now, I know probably the biggest question from folks is, when can we play? When is the demo? When is the network test? And unfortunately, they didn't confirm anything. Following FromSoft's standard flow, though, I would guess we probably get something late July. because we do know the game is going to have online PvP, even if the campaign is going to be single player, and I don't think they'd want to release that with at least testing the servers and testing latency and whatnot. So I would be very, very surprised if we don't get a demo or a network test or something that more than likely has PvP capabilities probably close to the end of July. But until then, all we can do is wait. So hopefully y'all enjoyed this look. I know it just reaffirmed everything that I was excited for. This is Peak Armored Core.